In the UK, we have a Minister for Women and a Women and Equality Unit. Every day the interests and needs of women receive detailed attention with the weight of the government, the media, and taxpayers' money behind it. The Equal Opportunities Commission would more appropriately be called the Female Opportunities Commission. It near single-mindedly justifies its existence by searching for all kinds of things that might conceivably oppress women, yet they have no interest whatsoever in the many more obvious ways in which men are oppressed.
What you had there was a commission set up which was designed, although it said it was equality for all, it was designed really to enable women to achieve equality. I had a person say to me, a solicitor said to me about 3 or 4 years ago that women can really organise themselves well, and I said no, they're not any more better organised than men. I said quite simply, when you've got a commission there which is set up for the benefit of women's equality, in inverted commas, whereby anything that a woman screams about, she can call upon a whole phalanx of lawyers from the EOC who will push their case, there's no great difficulty in achieving that. So what you've had from the 70s, and as you should see it in the newspapers sort of year after year, another male bastion crumbles, and you get this silly headline news would come out that women had achieved this and had achieved that. Quite simply, you had a commission that was there exclusively at their use to push for whatever they wanted to achieve.
Take this example of the EOC's work. This is typical of the female-centric view we have of the world. If anything is so much as inconvenient for women, it's something done to them by men. Transport is designed for workers who commute to their jobs. It's not designed for men, and it's idiotic to say that it is. If the situation was reversed, the EOC would be investigating why women have to go to work every day in stuffy, uncomfortable trains in order to support men who get to stay at home with a much higher quality of life. This is simple economics, not the oppression of women. This same issue affects old people, the unemployed, shift workers, the disabled, people that work at home, children. A whole raft of people find it inconvenient that there are fewer services outside of rush hour. But the EOC calls it an issue that affects women, and only women. Well, the EOC should be investigating why it is that women have so much free time to be burdened with, and where exactly they get all the money they need to pay for travel. Could it be from the commuters, mostly men, who are working 5 days a week to support them? Can you even believe that such an investigation would take place? Is this really how such an organisation chooses to spend its time and taxpayers' money? The real investigation here should be why are men so disproportionately required to work that the transport system seems almost designed exclusively for them? Why have men been required to work throughout history and to the present day, and not women? Why don't they investigate the huge disparity in health spending between men and women?
I have cancer.
I've got breast cancer.
My wife died of cancer.
I survived breast cancer.
Please give £2 a month to Cancer Research UK, so even more women can survive breast cancer.
One figure that in a recent year that came up was that on the promotion of prostate cancer, that £47,000 was spent, whereas if we look at the comparable figure for the try and prevent breast cancer, it was 4.4 million, which is quite a big difference.
100 times as much, and now the difference in spending is increasing. Cancer Research alone spent £45 million on breast cancer in 2008. If men had the same level of healthcare as women, how many lives could be saved? Is it as simple as that?
Well, I think that I think we could maybe add a couple of years to men's health if they took more care, the same care as women, at least 2 years, and maybe 3 years in the longer term.
Why are we not striving for those few extra years for men? For sons, brothers, fathers, grandfathers and friends? How about these headlines? In the present day in the UK, men must work to age 65 to qualify for the full state pension, Women need only work to age 60. And women live for longer than men. So while women retire at 60 and die at 81, giving them 21 years of life after work, men retire at 65 and die at 76, giving them only 11 years of retirement. So whilst men are forced to work themselves near to death, women enjoy a long retirement. And what's our main concern about this situation? Instead of investigating the bogus pay gap, how about looking into the real spending gap between men and women? Men earn more, but women spend more in almost every consumer category. Women have more disposable income than men despite earning less. This is because women have access to men's money as well as their own. What's hers is hers, and what's her husband's is hers, even on divorce. Men must work much harder than women to achieve a good standard of living. A woman can just shack up with a man who'll pay her way. Matt Damon married a bartender. What do you think her disposable income is now, compared with what it was? The activities of the government's Women Inequality Unit, the EOC, and the Minister for Women actively discriminate against men. Never in history have men had a minister whose sole purpose was to look after men's unique needs and requirements.
So, for example, when you have a politician who is typically standing before you arguing for some particular policy, he's usually arguing on behalf of his party, his political party, or perhaps on behalf of his country. But I'll bet you've never seen a politician in your life standing up and arguing for the cause of men. I've never seen it. I've seen them talking about women, but the psychology of men, if you like, has been hidden.
The very idea of supporting men's rights is ridiculed.
The UK Independence Party is struggling to get in touch with its feminine side after one of its new MEPs was appointed to the European Parliament's Women's Rights Committee. And he went on to say, "I'm going to promote men's rights. No self-respecting small businessman with a brain in the right place would ever employ a lady of childbearing age."
How can it be seen as fair and right that women have these agencies, amongst many others? Why does the EOC not investigate why over 90% of the homeless are men? And why 4 times more men than women commit suicide? The EOC spends a lion's share of their efforts and resources dealing with sexual harassment cases, instead of dealing with issues that impact men more, such as workplace injuries and deaths. Apparently, a pinch on the bum is worth more than a man's life. Women have several different choices in the world of work. Men have slightly different choices. Why doesn't the EOC investigate all of these inequalities?
She said, but it's not fair because women have to make their mind up on what they're going to do. She said, I don't know whether I should stay at home, go to work, or do it 50-50. I've never felt I've had any choice in my work, in good times or bad times. If things went bad, it was always my job to make sure the money came into the household, not my wife's. And being a man, I saw it that way as well.
At UCL, a London university, they say this. But why do they aim for an even balance of male and female students? The vast majority of women simply don't have the brains to do computer work. They certainly have intellect, just not technical intellect. And just as importantly, they don't have the desire to do technical work. It's that simple.
I'm going to put you in IT, because you said on your CV you have a lot of experience with computers.
I did say that on my CV, yes. I have a lot of experience with the whole computer thing, emails, sending emails, receiving emails, deleting emails. I could go on.
Do.
You know this from all of your female friends and colleagues. Most women avoid technical matters like the plague.
Can you send someone to fix the printer? It's jammed. Thanks. Bye.
From hi-fi systems to computers to car trouble, if it's electronic or mechanical and it doesn't vibrate, women don't want to know. In the men's 100 metres, black men are the fastest in the world, and white men don't do anything like as well. For example, there were no white men in the 2008 Olympic final. Is this happening because white men are discriminated against in athletics? Are white sprinters oppressed? Or are certain black men simply faster than the rest? If we decide that not enough white men are winning races, what can we do about it? Do we limit the number of blacks that can compete? Do we offer special coaching and funding to white athletes only? Perhaps we should make black athletes wear rucksacks full of rocks. Of course you can't discriminate against black athletes in this way. That's racism, right? And here's where we meet the classic problem afflicting our society in the feminist age: the confusion between equality of opportunity and equality of outcome. In a 100 metres race, all you can do is ensure that everyone starts at the same time, at the same place, and covers the same distance. You cannot control who wins, unless you start fixing the results. And this is precisely what's happening in British education. Universities choose to see it as discrimination that women are not studying computer science. And in order to alleviate this perceived discrimination against women, they proceed to commit actual discrimination against men. Let's say a computer science course has 100 places. 200 men apply for the course, and 50 women. If a university like UCL aims to have equal numbers of men and women on a course, then you can see the inevitable result. 100% of the women may be accommodated, but only 25% of the men. This the university sees as equality. It would actually be fairer to all applicants if the course ended up with 80 men and 20 women. That's 40% each. But this the university sees as discrimination against women. By aiming to have equal numbers of women on courses that simply don't appeal to them and that they aren't any good at, you don't achieve equality. What you achieve instead is discrimination against men, lower educational standards to get these women on the courses in the first place, and a shortage of high-quality professional workers in those fields when women quit 5 years into their careers to have children.
I've seen my best friend in Parliament, who was a young woman in her 30s, extremely capable. She wasn't willing to basically never see her young children, and so she left Parliament at the age of 38.
Everybody loses except for a growing group of women with mediocre technical abilities. The same discrimination against men that's happening in education is also happening in wider society. One example, amongst thousands, is that women business entrepreneurs can receive special government grants to help them start their businesses.
Early in the decade, I felt I had to prove myself being a woman in business.
The British Chambers of Commerce say there's no reason why many more women shouldn't become successful entrepreneurs.
Yes, there is a reason. It's because women have to compete with men, and men are very difficult to compete with, even if you're another man. If you're a woman, you have next to no chance.
Given that kind of equality of opportunity, it doesn't follow that you're going to get a completely identical equality of outcome. If it's the case that men are more competitive, they're more willing to sacrifice various other aspects of their life in order to get more money and status, and they're willing to take more risks, for example, take on more hazardous jobs and get paid more as a result. If that's the case, even if you have perfect equality of opportunity, you still wouldn't expect identity either in the kinds of jobs that men and women choose to do, or given that different jobs get paid different amounts, you wouldn't expect equality, complete identity in income either in terms of how unpleasant the job is such that you get rewarded more, and how much energy you have to put into climbing the greasy pole. So for both those kinds of reasons, even with, you would expect men and women to come out slightly differently in the job market, even in the absence of any discrimination whatsoever. It doesn't mean there's no discrimination. The discrimination can kind of exaggerate that difference, but you can't use inequality of outcome as evidence that there's something wrong necessarily with the system.
So what stops women flying in business?
I think it is confidence. Really need to believe in yourself and to have that will to succeed. I think other things that are making things perhaps a bit easier, they're now introducing flexible working, for example, for women, and so there's a lot more support, I think, that's nurturing women to think more about running their own businesses.
Today, for every 10 male business owners, there are 4 women, so entrepreneurs have not yet achieved equality.
It's not acceptable to society that men are simply more inclined and more able to start new businesses, and that's why women entrepreneurs are scarce. We would rather believe that women are oppressed and need extra help from the British taxpayer to be able to compete on equal terms.
Well, in terms of their economic output, in terms of the things that they construct, in terms of the ideas they have, in terms of the effort that they put into non-child rearing activities, I don't think there's any question that men by far exceed the achievements of women. Yes, in everything. There's very little that I can think of that women can, in areas where women can outperform men, that is of significant economic value to a community. country. I can't think. Can you?
But, yeah, no, I can't. There are plenty of jobs that most women could do better than most men. He said, force him to think of some. Can you think of any?
And again, it would work the other way. I don't think guys would, you know, be as good as a woman cleaning a house. No, I'm only joking. Well, no, I'm only joking.
Men and women were never meant to be in competition with each other. Women are not the opposite sex, they're the complementary sex. Whilst it's true that men are better at virtually everything than women, there's actually very little point in making too much of it. The only time such a fact becomes relevant is when women attempt to compete with men, but there's not meant to be any such competition. We're meant to be partners, not adversaries.
The way I believe we've been built by nature is that men are the doers in terms of the world outside of the immediate home, certainly. Outside of the nest. The men are the doers of things outside of the nest. And women are the manipulators and the energizers of the men out there. So I see women very much in control. They certainly are in charge of the upbringing of the children. They certainly are the ones who indoctrinate them with their views.
I think men and women just seem to fall into their roles, don't they? Their roles are almost predetermined by their genes, you know, their sex, and with, you know, with just who they are, you know, the sex. I think women do just, you know, women will fall into a certain sort of stereotype, and the guys will do their thing, you know.
Is that the way it should be, because they're men and women?
No, not at all. But I think it just happens. I think it happens. It's evolution, isn't it? It goes back to the caveman days, you know, where the women would, you know, do all the stuff in the cave, and the guys go off and hunt.
About 2 or 3 women in the work study department, and I don't mean it in a demeaning sort of way, but they couldn't see out in the shop floor what I saw. I'd go out there and they'd say, well, there's nothing. And I said, can't you see that the whole place is not running efficiently? Don't your eyes? And they couldn't see that. They would notice that Shirley over there had a pair of shoes on that didn't match her dress, and one of them could lip read that she was saying something which I wouldn't pick up on. They'd pick up all these funny little things of what somebody is wearing, or somebody's button, you know, isn't done up and things like that. But they couldn't actually get they couldn't see on the mechanised side of it, the workflow was not running properly. And I had to point it out to them, and they struggled to see that.
It works the other way. See, women do have a really good natural instinct with kids that guys don't have. And I've seen this firsthand. It's not that I haven't tried, but she has the edge. She definitely has the edge. And I don't know, I keep looking at myself thinking, well, what am I doing wrong? Why? How come she knows that? And where the hell did she get that information from?
It's an artificial society we find ourselves in that attempts to make women the same as men, and then pits women against men as well.
The battle of the sexes. In this timeless struggle for supremacy between man and woman,
both sexes lose, children are relegated, and only government and large businesses win. No woman in the workplace is required to wear any specific item of clothing as men are. Men must wear a tie, a shirt, trousers and shoes to be considered sufficiently smart. It's the male uniform. If we dictated to women precisely what they should wear to work, it would simply be called sex discrimination.
There are some things that women are just naturally better at than men. Shopping is one of them. Driving is another. That's why women drivers can save up to 40% on car insurance.
If we can legitimately discriminate against men for car insurance, doesn't it open up a whole can of worms for how we can discriminate against women? Should we tax women for pollution caused by tampons, sanitary towels and incontinence pads? Should we make women pay for damage to expensive floors caused by high heels? Should women pay for the pill, the way men must pay for condoms. Anyway, women don't get cheaper car insurance because they're better drivers. They can get it cheaper because they drive fewer miles. It's only men that generally use their cars as their business rather than just for commuting. Couriers, delivery drivers, bus and coach drivers, sales reps. When couples drive anywhere, it's the man that drives. Where women do the same mileage as men, they pay the same insurance. But these adverts are calculated to make women feel superior, and spend their money accordingly. As usual, women swallow it because they think they're getting one up on men.